So thank you, everybody, for coming. I'd like to call our regular council meeting of Tuesday, September 26th to order, respectfully acknowledging that this meeting is being held on traditional territory of the Kwaglet people, Delakasa. So before I go on to the agenda, I just would like to first acknowledge with great sorrow and sadness the loss of RCMP Constable Rick O'Brien, and say how deeply sorry we are, and acknowledge the job that they face on a daily basis is dangerous, life-changing, and incredible things that they do to serve and protect our communities. So again, our sympathies. May I have approval of agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Titterbury, seconded by Councillor Texmo. All in favor? Carried. We have the minutes of the Policy and Governance Committee held on September 12th for adoption. Moved by Councillor Dorward, seconded by Councillor Titbury. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. We have minutes of our regular council meeting held September 12th for adoption. Moved by Councillor Dorward, seconded by Councillor Texmo. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. We have delegations tonight. We have Mr. Sam Lee, the President and Chief Executive Officer, and Nicholas Van Dyke, Chief Financial Officer for Norel Copper and Gold Incorporated, to talk to us about their exploration activities on the North Island. And we'll just change it to delegates. So thank you for coming, Nicholas. And I'm not sure if Mr.
I don't see Sam up there.
Yeah, I don't see Mr. Hi. So I don't know if you want, have you met all the other counselors in that? If you want to meet them, or we could do a round table.
We've met some. We met Dennis in his previous role, and we've met Fred in another role, so we know those. But be great to meet more of the counselors. I'm sure Sam is in the process of joining. I think we didn't realize there was a registration step to go through.
Oh, okay. So we could just hold for a second until he pops in.
Sure. I'll shoot him a message and just find out where he's at.
Okay.
I also wanted to note we have Ian Chang from our team on the line. Ian is our Vice President of Project Development. And we will also have Robin Tolbert, who is probably doing the same thing Sam is right now.
So if we wanted, if it's going to take a little bit, we could switch the order of our delegations and have
Yeah.
Julie.
We're fine with that. Yeah, please.
Oh. Okay, so in that case, we'll move with our Welcoming Communities Coalition Coordinator, Julie. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name, but thank you. And would you like to come up? And Christine Salzman, the Community Connections Assistant Intake Worker for Immigration Welcome Center, to talk to us about your Welcoming Communities Coalition. So come on up and have a seat in the comfort chairs.
Okay, you want me to come as well? Julie was gonna do.
Oh, sure.
You can come too.
Come sit us here.
We don't bite.
So you've met some of us. So this is, we'll go around, Councillor Titbury.
Hi.
Yes. I'm Councillor John Titbury.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet
And
Councillor Janet Dorward.
Councillor Brian Texmo.
and then online are
The
Fred
top two.
Robertson and Dennis Dugas.
I apologize, Councillor Robertson, Fred Robertson.
Yeah. Dennis Dugas, thank you.
Yes, his voice is getting worse and worse.
Dennis, sorry to hear. Well.
They're both not well, and that's why they're there.
Sorry to hear you both not well.
Perfect for me today, apparently. It's showing with the notes and I just have to remember how to shut that off. I did, but it's not now on the screen, it's not showing. Oh, there we go. Now
There we go.
Okay, now we're working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having both of us here tonight. My name is Julie Cambajan, and I'm the coordinator, and Christine Salzman is here with me as well, my coworker, and we both work in the Welcoming Communities Coalition, Department of Immigrant Welcome Center. So the Welcoming Communities Coalition is a local immigration partnership, or a LIP, and we're coordinated and hosted through the Immigrant Welcome Center. Local immigration partnerships are planning bodies through which Immigration Refugee Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, supports the development of community-based partnerships to address needs of newcomers. LIPs vary in size and organization, and some are housed within municipalities, while others are community-based like ours. The main objectives of LIPs is to strive to engage a wide variety of stakeholders in a focused strategic planning process to strengthen welcoming communities for newcomers, which promote their success in Canada. While the newcomer serving sector is the key collaborator, other partners include employers, school boards, libraries, health agencies, boards of trade, various government representation, professional organizations and associations, and the faith-based organizations.
What did you want? Where to point it at?
Oh, it went, yeah. So the Immigrant Welcome Center is a multicultural association for the North Vancouver Island, so Comox Valley through up and including Port Hardy. And operationally, we're known as Immigrant Welcome Center, and it's a registered nonprofit. They offer settlement support services, nationally recognized language instruction, and also social groups and programs for newcomers to make connections in the community. Part of our job at Welcoming Communities is to forge the partnerships with organizations and people in the region who share our dream of welcoming and supportive communities where everyone thrives. In the North Island, Stephen McNeil is in our Port McNeil office, and you can find him based out of the Mount Waddington Community Futures office. So what makes a welcoming community? A welcoming community is a collective effort to design and sustain a place where immigrants feel they belong and that supports immigrants' economic, social, cultural, and civic political integration. A welcoming community has structures, processes, and practices in place that meet the needs and promote inclusion of immigrants in all aspects of life, and actively works to ensure that these are effective. LIPs collaborate with key people, including local residents. And in June 2016, the Welcoming Communities was launched in Campbell River and the Comox Valley. And we're here today to start to launch the program in the North Island. There are 19 LIPs across the province of British Columbia and 85 across Canada, all supported by IRCC. In 2022, we did engage a contractor who lives here in Port Hardy to identify organizations that would be great partners in the work, and also to identify potential participants and analyze the community initiatives that were already happening around welcoming immigrants into the communities. In 2022, we have spent some time developing relationships with organizations like North Island College, and Mount Waddington Literacy Society. We are looking at the needs and gaps and opportunities and the barriers. And tomorrow we're hosting our first community forum in Port Hardy, and we would welcome you to attend. And on Thursday, we'll be in Port McNeil. Anybody,
Not looking forward.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, now I've probably pressed it too many times and it'll. Do you want me to-
Okay, yeah,
there we
that's
go.
right.
Thank you.
So anybody can be a coalition member. They just need to want to commit to growing a diverse and equal opportunities in the North Island. The work is guided by a steering committee and is made up of volunteers who represent a variety of sectors and volunteer immigrant advisory table members. Membership examples. These are some of the examples of the members that we currently have in Campbell River and the Comox Valley. And again, membership is free. And we sent a letter in the package to ask the council to become a member of the coalition. So here's our vision and our purpose. Each LIP across the country is tasked with creating their own unique plan tailored to our areas. And the strategic plan for 2022-2024 was developed with the organizations in the Comox Valley and Campbell River. And the next strategic plan will include the organizations that belong here in Port Hardy and Port McNeil. Coalition members are directly involved in creating all of the implementation of the strategic plan and the action plans each year. And we connect through different points of contact, including a collaboratory, which we have every year. And steering committees are in immigrant advisory table members, community forums, and community dialogues. These are some of the examples that immigrants have said would be great ways for the community to welcome them. And they're just examples of some of the easy things that you can do within your own neighborhoods. Even just inviting a neighbor over for a cup of coffee or participating in events where immigrants would be mostly gathered. And this is our contact information. If you have any questions, our website, and I welcome any questions from council.
So thank you. Anyone with some questions?
Where's your forum tomorrow?
It is at the hotel just down the street.
The Colliers Hotel is from 9 to 11. One of the counselors was going to attend, but now he is not well, but we welcome anyone else who's available.
What time?
9 to 11.
And so thank you very much. And the invite went out, but most of the council works or unfortunately had other commitments at the time. But Councillor Dugas was initially going to be our representative,
Yeah.
but if Councillor Tidbury can make
Yeah,
it,
I can make that.
that would be great.
That's great.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
great, thank you.
So
Yeah,
thank you
thanks,
for-
John.
So thank you very much for your presentation. It was really interesting. We don't make any decisions on a delegate's request, but I suspect this one is a favorable one, but we'll see. We'll have to have discussion
Yeah,
after.
and if you want to see any of the projects we've done in Campbell River and Comox Valley, they're on the website, or you can come and reach out to one of us.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome,
very
thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that'd be good. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So our next group of delegates, Mr. Sam Lee, President and CEO, and Nicholas Van Dyke, Chief Financial Officer, Noral Copper and Gold, to discuss here exploration activities on the North Island. And I know you've got a couple other participants with you. So maybe we'll just do go around with the counselors at the table and online, and then you could introduce your team.
John Tidbury, Councillor.
Brian Texmo, Counselor.
Janet Dorward, counselor.
And then online, Dennis,
Dennis Dugas, Counselor.
And Fred?
Fred Robertson, counselor, and other hats along the way.
So thank you. So Sam, would you like to take it away?
Thanks very much, Patricia. It was very nice to see everybody that I have met, and very nice meeting those that I have not met. On my side, my name is Sam Lee. I'm the president and CEO of North Isle Copper and Gold. With me today is Nicholas Van Dyke, waving his hand right there. He's the chief financial officer. And then Robin Tolbert, raising his hand right there. He's our VP exploration and spends the vast majority of his time living in your part of the world. And I believe Ian Chang is also on the call as well.
Good evening.
Ian is our VP engineering. So that's our team. Very nice to meet everybody, and look forward to going through our presentation with you.
So are we.
Excellent. So I think as I'm told, we have approximately 15 minutes, which is perfectly timed because this is a presentation I just gave recently to the Denver Gold Forum in Colorado Springs. So this is a picture of, I'm sure you can recognize where this is. We see the wind farms in the background there. This is the northern end of our tenements. We call it Northwest Expo, where we're currently drilling today. So the whole thesis around North Isle is critical metals, electrification for the future. Our project is a significant copper porphyry, which for those that you may not know, 80% of the copper in the world is produced from these types of porphyry systems. And as you may or may not know, there's an absolute dearth of copper projects in the world to enable us to electrify and decarbonize at the rate that we're set out to do. So just to put it in context, by 2050, there will need to be $1.2 trillion spent in order to, in critical metals alone, in order to satisfy our 1.5 degree climate change goals. And of that $1.2 trillion, $750 million, $750 billion needs to be spent on copper projects. And I can tell you, there does not exist that many copper projects in the world today. And certainly the absence of copper projects in safe jurisdictions where there's rule of law, social license, and environmental protection, such as obviously this beautiful province and country that we live in, is becoming fleeting, more and more fleeting, as the world becomes more unstable and lack of all of the above. So we truly believe that this is a huge opportunity for not only ourselves, but Canada and British Columbia, and certainly in the north part of Vancouver Island. I will be making cautionary statements, forward-looking statements. So our team, as I introduced, we have over 200 years of exploring, developing, financing, and operating mines like this throughout the world. My background is I'm a metallurgist, engineer by training, but I spent the last 20 years with CIBC. I ran their global mining practice. I'm most recently based out of Vancouver, but also in Sydney, Australia, and Toronto. We have a number of individuals, including our chairman, Dale Corman, who have been around these types of projects and opportunities for the past 4, 5, 6 decades. Kevin O'Kane, who also sits on our board and a resident of Port Hardy for 12 years. He was the chief mining officer for BHP when BHP was obviously in production. The Island Copper Mine was in production. So is extremely familiar with some of the opportunities and some of the challenges that we all face in terms of bringing this project ahead. Nick Van Dyke, who I introduced earlier. He spent a number of years as an executive for Polaris, which owned the Orca quarry, obviously the neighboring quarry just to the south of our project. And Ian and Robin, who I mentioned, Robin, who lives most of his time in Port Hardy, spends most of his time in Port Hardy, has been running these types of projects for the last 3 decades. So a very qualified group of individuals. I also would like to mention Keena Higgins-Smith, who's also on our board. She's most recently added as our chair of our audit committee. She also sits on the joint venture group that is jointly run by the Orca and the First Nation groups, including one of our First Nation groups that we deal with, the Quagooth. So a lot of institutional knowledge within the North Island, and certainly how to drive this project forward. So where are we located? Okay, Port Hardy is right there, as you can see to the where that marker is along the Holberg Road, brings us right into the project, which is defined today by Hushamu and Red Dog, which is identified in the blue. These two projects have some significant historical drilling, which has led to a resource of approximately 900 million tons combined. So to put that in perspective, that's approximately 3 billion pounds of copper and approximately 2.5 million ounces of gold. Gold in this situation is our byproduct. It's a very important metal as it relates to financing such large operations. This is $1 billion project from a capital expenditures perspective, and then significantly more than that as it relates to the indirect costs, which is considered a very large project. And so gold is a very important commodity to finance these types of projects at a much lower cost of capital. So whilst it is a byproduct of ours, it is a very important byproduct of ours. We're currently exploring in the surrounding areas, including Northwest Expo, which is to the northwest of the tenements. And then we're also going to be drilling at Pemberton Hills, which is in between equidistance between our project 1 and 2 and the BHP Island Copper Mine, which is on the bottom right-hand quadrant there. The project, as I mentioned, is approximately 2.5 billion pounds of copper, approximately 4 million ounces of gold. It has a project net present value after tax, discounting at 8% of about $1.1 billion and a 19% IRR. Now, I think it's important to note that, again, this is a very capital intensive project for a company of any size, really, but certainly for a company of our size. And so we are currently exploring ways to reduce capital intensity, to make the project footprint smaller, and to make the returns higher, to be able to bridge to a much longer proposition project. Currently, the project is about 22 years in life, producing around 100 million pounds of copper and 100,000 ounces of gold a year for 22 years. But what we're endeavoring to do is identifying a smaller starter pit, which is within the copper porphyry, but it's gold dominant. And so you have seen, and you will be seeing some news coming out of us shortly on developing this near-term opportunity that, again, would have a smaller footprint. It would have, a higher ability to generate cash. It would be, theoretically, approximately 10 to 12 years. It'd be half the capital, which would then bridge into the 22-year project. So, the idea here is that by introducing this smaller project, we would be able to expand the overall project to a 30+ year project, but it would give almost a stepwise function to get to the larger project, which I think is, quite appealing for many reasons, including financing and permitting, which Nick will go through shortly. The third opportunity, which is, pretty significant opportunity, but a much more long dated opportunity, is Pemberton Hills. And again, this is the project that's equidistant between our project and the BHP Island Copper project. I think British Columbia is known for reasonably lower grade systems. Without getting into a tremendous amount of detail, this system we have here is quite unique. I think it might be because we're in the island, but Robin can speak certainly better than that. It does have this lithocap or capping structure that has the ability potentially to capture the metals more effectively than if that structure was not there, which is pretty much the case in the rest of British Columbia. So that's an area that we are currently exploring as well. All 3 areas have been permitted with 5-year, multi-year area-based permits. And this is really a true testament to some of the good work that we've been doing as a team with our First Nation partners, which include the Quetzino First Nations group and the Tlaxcala directly. And as I mentioned, on an indirect basis, the Quagooth, who sits on the peripheral of our project outline. So we don't need to spend too much time on this, but as I mentioned, this is a very capital intensive project. Right now, it's currently slated for $1.4 billion Canadian, and with no doubt it will grow given the inflationary market. So this is closer to a $2 billion project. So we will need to explore ways on how to break this up and to find a manageable solution to finance the project.
I think the other piece I would add there is, from a Port Hardy perspective, this is something like half of the investment would be money spent on the North Island. There'd be lots of spending to bring in large equipment and things like that from elsewhere, but a lot of the work would be, moving earth around, labor, money spent with local suppliers, and so there's a potential for a huge investment in the North Island. In a lot of ways as this project is built.
Yeah, and it's not certainly dissimilar to what which was the project that BHP brought to the North Island Copper. I'm sure there are people in the room that know the history better than I do, but certainly back in the 70s when the project was sanctioned and built, the island grew from approximately the north end of the island grew from approximately 700 people to over 3,000. So this is a very similar size project to the Island Copper project. So it's approximately currently being contemplated as a 70,000 ton per day project, which is actually slightly bigger than the Island Copper project. It is contemplated as an open pit. We are not clearly contemplating putting our tailings in the inlet, which is what BHP did, which obviously infuriated Quetzino. We have engineered in our preliminary economic assessment a full tailings storage facility, which would be located in Hashumu Valley, just south of where our project is. So obviously there's a lot of engineering, there's a lot of baseline studies that need to be performed over the next couple of years, which we have not started completely yet, but we have initiated in part through water monitoring and wildlife habitat monitoring baseline.
And I think it's worth adding that the tailing site in the PEA is a hypothetical one where, some of the technical parameters appear to be favorable, but the actual tailing site would be selected in a collaborative process involving the community, First Nations and everybody on the North Island would have input into that site. So it wouldn't be certainly a one-way process where we pick a spot and hope everybody likes it. It would be a conversation.
Okay, moving on. This just shows that it is predominantly copper, approximately 60, over 62% copper, approximately 33% gold. There is some molybdenum, which is a strategic metal in the UK. And we also have a very significant rhenium. That's rhenium, not uranium, but rhenium content, which is a critical metal in the US, given its use for aerospace and high temperature industries. Slide, please. So we're just looking here at our Northwest Expo zone. Again, this is our high return opportunity zone. This is the one that's just adjacent to the wind farm. Again, a lot of the activity that we're advancing today is around Northwest Expo, because this has the potential of being a smaller project footprint, call it half the size, half the capital expenditures, one watershed versus 3 watersheds. So smaller impact initially, that would obviously enable conceivably to bridge into the larger project. Pemberton Hills is, as I said, the really big opportunity. I think, when we talk to community members and First Nation partners, one of the obvious questions that always come up is this kind of like a BHP where you're in here for 24 years and then you're gone? That's obviously not the hope. Like, the hope is that we can actually make this a generational project. And so I think Northwest Expo, the project that we just saw on the previous slide, plus Hushamu, has the ability to make it, a 30+ year project. The hope here is with Pemberton Hills, this, through good exploration success, could make the entire region the generational opportunity that everyone is looking for. 50+ years, 100+ years. Obviously, this is quite early days, and we're currently exploring partnerships that help us facilitate the drill program, which in itself is extremely expensive. It's we're talking $30 to $40 million just to drill this to the extent that it needs to be drilled. So partnerships are certainly being considered today, but this, in the grand plan, this would be the third leg to the stool rather, that creates that generational opportunity. Slide. So I can ask Nick to start talking about this, but clearly, just from a landscape perspective, Canada has officially set its goals and strategy to be the critical metal epicenter for the world. The reality is BC porphyries in Canada don't exist anywhere else other than BC. So if 80% of the copper in the world is produced from porphyries, and all the porphyries are in British Columbia, therein lies the tremendous opportunity.
Thanks, Sam. So I'll just talk very briefly about so the permitting process, should we move past the exploration phase, would be an involved one. It's a minimum 4-year process, several years of data collection around baseline studies, and then several years in the formal environmental assessment process. It's a multi-stage process with multiple opportunities for community feedback. The reason we show this data when we're talking to the public is to, partly from an investor perspective, to provide confidence that BC is an investable jurisdiction. It's important for us to demonstrate to people that that's the case. Projects in BC have become more successful because companies have started to do a much better job working with communities, working with First Nations, working with the government to specify projects in a way that they're more likely to be successful. And so that's why we see that big change from the 2009 success rate to today. Projects are a lot more likely to proceed through the process because by the time they get here, they've already had a huge amount of community input, a huge amount of feedback from everybody that's going to be impacted. And so everybody already understands what's going to happen before the project even goes into the environmental assessment process. And so for us, part of our engagement with the Quatsino and Tlahtlatsiquala and Quag-Youth, as well as yourselves and other municipalities in the area, is to ensure that everybody understands what we're doing. We're an open book. We're sharing everything that we're doing. Robin is in town all the time. Our employees live in apartments in Port Hardy. So we're accessible and available, and really excited about the opportunity that this creates. I think if we, so this is another slide that we use to share with investors, and I think there's a couple things that are important for us. We're, as a company, we're really excited and enthusiastic about the perspectives that we've seen to date from the community. Michelle obviously has been loud in her support for what we're doing. And I think, again, in how we talk about our business to investors is to show them that the North Island's identity is built around the resource industry. The town sign has fishing, logging, and mining on it. That's the main festival in town. And, as we see some of these other industries that have supported the North Island declining or at risk of declining, that's part of why we see this great opportunity to see a return to mining on the North Island and again, creating the opportunity that comes with that.
And I'd like to also add, we've now been attending and supporting this festival for 3 years. At least that's how long I've been in my position for, and Nick has been in his. And without exception, every year, the level of support that we get and the lack of resistance that we get is quite astonishing. I always kind of compare it to almost walking into Timmins. Like that's my hometown, or at least Ontario's my home province, and you've got the same feel supporting the extractive industries and really just having this really deep history of people moving their families over to this part of the island during the Island Copper years and establishing their roots as a result, and just being very fond of those memories. So, we're obviously encouraged by that, and we wouldn't certainly be in a place where we didn't feel welcome. And, I think it's just tremendous the level of support that we've received thus far.
So I think probably the last piece to talk about around support is our approach to engaging with the First Nations of the North Island. We've seen the law move this way, but beyond that, this is, I think what is the right thing to do to incorporate the perspectives of First Nations in how we want to develop the project. So to date, we've signed 2 agreements, one with Quatsino, one with Tlahtlatsiquala. Those agreements provide capacity funding, some community benefit funding related to the activity that we're undertaking within the nation's territory. And what that's allowed us to do is to work directly with the nations to ensure that they're understanding what we're doing within their territory. And so to date, that's involved primarily engagement with chief and council and the nation's staff. But we've also been working on community meetings where we are looking forward to discussing the project with the Quatsino and Tlahtlatsiquala communities as a whole. And of course, there will be lots of interest in us doing that with Port Hardy and the other North Island communities as well. So We're just in the very, very early days of this process of engaging with the communities. But in BC today, all roads pass through the First Nations in terms of permitting large projects, and we think it's really important to involve everybody in that conversation as early as possible. So I think that's the main piece in terms of our formal presentation. We have Robin on the line, we have Ian on the line. If there's additional questions that council would like to ask us about either our exploration or development activities, or our approach generally, Sam and I can speak to that. I think we'll sort of pause our formal speech there and look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Does council have any questions? Councillor Texmo?
Thanks for the presentation. It's great. Very well laid out. I guess the biggest question would be what are the major factors that are going to contribute to solidify pushing past the exploration phase into actual putting into line?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think the easy answer is the market recognition for this need of copper, which we believe is medium to long term. How long that it takes the market to get to the point where recognition of our project is in a place to push the start button, which Nick has eloquently identified as being at the very least a 4-year sanctioning process. I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle around sanctioning such a large project. I think that, again, my past profession was I was a banker, so it was kind of almost my job to take the temperature of where the market is and how aggressively they're going to support a project like this. I've always kind of characterized this as being kind of in that 3rd to 4th inning of the game, where the 5th through 9th innings is when you develop a project like this. We're currently in the 9th year of what we believe is a 15-year sanctioning period. So it typically takes approximately 15 years for projects to get sanctioned in Canada, and now the rest of the world has followed suit in terms of the length of time, and we believe we're in the ninth year of that 15th year process. So I'm trying not to be elusive here, but I truly don't know the answer to the question. If we were to have we would need $50 million today to go through the environmental permitting process, in addition to fully drill this project as we've defined it today, to move it into a sanctioning period. $50 million to start that 4-year timeline. Currently, we are a $40 million market cap. So that level of dilution seems a little bit too much to absorb today, which is why we're going after the higher return, smaller capital intensity project to bridge us to the bigger project. Having said that, again, wearing my banker hat on, I've worked on over $100 billion of mergers and acquisitions over the last 20 years. At the point in time where we are kind of the 5th inning to the 9th inning, the size of our company, the market cap of as defined by the market cap of our company, should be in the order of magnitude of $500 million, right? That's kind of that's how quickly these markets can shift the valuation of a company with an asset such as ours. And so, I can't unfortunately prognosticate when that's going to happen. I can tell you right now, the market is very spooked with recessionary fears, with a hard landing, soft landing, any landing, with China effectively being turned over on its head, which is obviously a major consumer of copper. So, with obviously the war that's happening in Ukraine, so it is very difficult to prognosticate in such turbulence. But we are always prepared to be able to advance the project once we get the funding for the first stage 8, which is the $50 million.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks, and thanks everyone and Sam for the presentation. I just want to start off by saying I am a huge advocate of the consultation process, and from what you've said, that you're well underway with talking First Nations in the area, as well as the whole establishing a sound environmental footprint for anything that is developed in the time to come. But I was interested in seeing a piece in the Globe and Mail today written by Perrin Beatty, who is not somebody who I typically quote, I have to say. But part of his opinion piece was that using government figures, that the government, that Canada would needs to see 20 new mines online by 2035. Given the length of time that you were saying and that he was pointing out that it takes to see a project through from start until production, I guess my question is a little bit broad, but what can our level of government and possibly other levels of government do to help the process, given that consultation and the environmental permitting and process is critical to success, but what can our levels of government and other levels of government do to help that process along?
Like that's a wonderful question, Councillor Robertson. I think this is, again, the sentiment that I feel constantly coming from the northern end of the island, which is nothing but support and trying to help expedite the process. I think one of the critical elements that Nick and I fight every day is the perception, not reality, that you cannot permit a project on Vancouver Island. There's obviously very little recognition that there is clearly a bifurcation on the island, and this part of the island does have a rich history of industry and extractive industries playing a huge part of it. So, as we try to continue to build this awareness, and it's really been tremendously, Fred's on the line, tremendously helpful having Michelle Babchuk playing a pretty significant role in trying to dispel this misconception, also giving us direct access to, Minister Ralston, former Minister of Emily, and now Minister Osborne. I think just is incredibly helpful, obviously, to allow us to break this perception. Once this perception gets broken, I do think that there's going to be a strengthening of our ability to expedite the project forward. So if I may, excuse me, perhaps now that this has been put out there, I would love to spend a bit of time with our team to discuss ways on how we can really provide that ability to show the support of the island, whether it's just us being even more involved in a lot more of your community events. I think that's something that is a fantastic way to break that misconception. In terms of the permitting, obviously, we took a very it's actually more of a consent-based approach with our First Nations group, as Nick pointed out, which I think is a bit it's a bit novel in British Columbia, certainly in Canada, whereby we're not going to do anything, even go through the permitting process unless we have their specific consent around certain projects on the land. And, you know, I think that the support that we've received from former Mayor Dugas and certainly current Mayor Levesque, it was really directed towards establishing that that trusted relationship with Quatsino in particular and with Clacasiquala. So I think that level of direction coming from council was very important in how we approach this. Now that we have these agreements in place, I think it is something that we engaging the community now, the broader community, I think is absolutely critical to our success, to have continued support and also to be able to, you know, promote the fact that we have such support.
Thanks, Sam, and apologies for sitting in the dark. I'm just about to see if I can get some light there.
No worries.
It's not a metaphor, honest to God.
Right. Sometimes
So-
I feel the same way. Anyway, please.
Any other questions?
Just want to say thanks for keeping us informed.
Yes.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having us and giving us this opportunity. It's certainly, we've been looking forward to it for quite some time now.
So thanks very much for coming, and we have your emails, and you have our support too. So thank you.
Great.
And if you see any of us around town as we're walking around, Robin and his team are present all the time, and Sam and I are up, you know, a couple times a month. If you see us around, please don't hesitate to stop us, and we're always happy to talk.
Indeed. And we'll do the same. We'll make sure to reach out when we are in town. So if there are any specific questions or things you'd like to chat about, I would love to grab a copy at Guido's.
The place to go to.
Yes, indeed.
So thanks very much, Sam, for your time, and Nicholas and Robin and Ian for taking the time to come tonight. We appreciate the presentation.
Most welcome. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, moving on, business arising from the minutes, our council action item report of September 12th for information. Any comments, questions? We have no new business. We have correspondence from Doug Matsumoto, General Manager, Operations Pacific Canada Post, a response to our letter that we wrote on July 2023. Any comments, suggestions?
All I can say is from
Dr. Tidbury?
he's from a big city. And he has no idea of how the postal system works here. Absolutely no.
Thank you. Councillor Dorwood?
Yeah, I'd like to see us still take further action. Not entirely sure what the best course of action would be, but you know, the getting your mail returned, all the issues identified in our letter are big concerns for all the residents in Port Hardy. And I think, you know, your suggestion to meet with this person or the manager for our region, or contact the MP that would be in charge of Canada Post, but either one of those, or start with one and lead to the other. But I think we have to continue working on this.
So I had suggested before our meeting that maybe we should reach out to this Angela Liu and ask her to come and meet with us directly, and maybe as a delegate. But I think we all can agree we're not happy with the response to the letter. It's not very good. So maybe direction to staff to reach out to Angela and see if she would come as a delegate. Thanks. So Councillor Dugas, I know you had your hand up. Was that what you were going to suggest as well?
Yeah, thank you.
We're all on the same wavelength then.
We're all in the same envelope.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it, jealous.
You all the way, Karen.
All right, item number 2, Lionel Gunson, Treasurer, Port Hardy Hospital Auxiliary regarding a letter of support for New Horizons for Seniors Grant application for the new roof. Because of time commitments, we did approve it electronically, so just formally, we have a motion to approve. Moved by Councillor Tidbury, second by Councillor Texmo. Any comments? All in favor? Here we have Taylor Massales, Human Resources Assistant, the Quatsi Economic Development LP. A late grant and aid request for September 28th, the Pantry Initiative. So we did support them a couple months ago with the Pack the Pantry Initiative, and so now we've got another request coming in for this one. We do have September 30th is for the next year's for our grant and aid, but with talking to our our director of finance, and we do have some money left, but we often get late grants and aid from requests from sports teams and other teams as well. So I think we need to discuss this. Councillor Dorward?
Yeah, I attended their Pack the Pantry event, and that was a really good event. And I hope I think they raised lots there. I saw lots of food stacked there. Do we normally need it to be a nonprofit? Like, this is a corporation. I don't recall ever making a District of Port Hardy donation to a non-profit.
Councillor Tidbury?
That was my question too.
Yeah.
You know, is this in our realm? You know, because if something like this, what says another organization comes along and asks for a donation of money?
So, CAO Nelson Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we actually did have a lengthy discussion in the office about aid to business and some of the concerns that we had after the fact when we made this resolution to go forward, because the way that it was kind of brought forward was more of a community event, and so that's what we were supporting. But now this is more directed towards Quatsi Economic Development, and so there could be some concerns with writing checks to business because we aren't asking them for any of their financial statements. But maybe it might be better for them to have the application come through either the nonprofit entity that they currently have under their umbrella for maybe an ongoing, like a natural grant need for the 2024 year, or the other option that I suggested was that we encourage staff to go down and participate in barbecue and take non-perishable food items down to the event, which is what they're expecting.
Thank you. Councillor Dugas?
Yeah, I think that what we did before, each individual went there and took something there for the barbecue. I think that suffices in this situation. And I think that after we read the letter and then you see the poster, basically that's really what they're asking for. They're asking for people to come down there and bring items, non-perishable goods, and support their issue. I think that that's the way we should keep it and keep doing it that way. That's my input. Thank you.
Thank you. They did ask for some cash, I think. Is that not correct?
Previously, I believe that was our previous one in jail when we took that went down there. They had a part of their letter, I believe.
Okay.
This one does ask to be a sponsor.
Yeah, so this one asks for us to be a sponsor, which, yeah. So I think that, Councillor Robertson.
Yeah, thanks. I understand the issue about it being not a nonprofit, but the event itself is certainly not a for-profit event. It's a community event. So I'm actually, unless we have policy that dictates it against it, I'm actually okay with directing some of the money, the grant and aid money there, specifically for this event. And I don't know how much. I don't know how much they're looking for or anything like that. I agree with the other sentiments that, you know, we speak with our actions and participate that way. But again, the event itself is certainly a not-for-profit event.
So my concern is, we gave money a couple months ago. We've got another grant and aid request now that this, if we keep getting late grant and aid requests from them, that it could become a sizable donation in our budget that would take away from others. So that's where having the director of finance suggesting having an actual grant and aid request that's ongoing, then we can put it into the budget request and discuss it then. CEO Nelson Smith.
Yeah, just to clarify too, it does say in our grant and aid budget that the council must in its annual budget allocate funds for the disbursements to nonprofit groups which have been evaluated on individual merit, and a donation may be made in kind or in cash.
So could we direct them to apply for a regular grant and aid request by September 30th for consideration in the budget? And at this point, we will just circulate their poster and ask people to donate non-perishables.
The policy says nonprofit.
But they have a nonprofit.
Oh, they have a nonprofit, so it's a different entity that's requesting.
So Quatsi Economic Development is currently the proponent that is requesting. However, I know that there are other nonprofits that could be requesting on behalf of this and would be eligible for.
Okay, so I wasn't aware of that.
And I'd be more comfortable with that.
Is that okay?
I agree with that.
All right, moving on to board President Gatehouse Community Theater Association read letter of support for grant applications to fund portable performance stage.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Dorwood, seconded by Councillor Texmo. Comments? Councillor Tidbury.
You know, we do have a stage here in Port Hardy. And I look at the size of this thing and it's big, it's long. And to convert it, I see a problem there. For another stage in another community where we already have a stage, portable stage here in this community that I know the church group would be more than happy to take it anywhere that we wanted it.
Councillor
I just want to say, you know, this is a well-organized event that's been going on for a few years. They're gaining some momentum. It's getting more attendance every year. They've got some big bands coming up. I think it's great to have some events in the North Island. This doesn't necessarily happen in Port Hardy, but I see no reason not to support their request for a support to their grant application.
Right now, it's just a support for the application.
Yeah, they're not
That's
asking for
all.
money or anything.
Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? All right, carried. Next one, Kathy Wilson, manager, the Healing Center, Guasala, Nacogdoches Health and Family Services. Read the National Truth and Reconciliation Every Child Matters March on September 30th. So the recommendation that the request of a temporary road closure of a portion of Granville and Market Street on Saturday, September 30th, for the purposes of the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, Every Child Matters March be approved and that the district provide barricades. Moved by Councillor Tidbury, seconded by Councillor Texmo. Comments? All in favor? Carried. Rachel Blaney, MP, North Island, Powell River, read the letter to Honorable Diane LeBouthier, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and Coast Guard for information. Councillor Dorwood.
Well, my first thought when I read this letter was the second paragraph, of course, how misstated that is.
Really the part right there.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's thought the government needs to follow through on its commitment to remove the fish farms out of the water.
yeah.
That's the.
Actually, I guess it's the first three paragraphs. But some of it really talks, about some stuff that for the commercial fishing industry that does need to be done too, which is great. But I thought, what to do about this. It's because I know that it doesn't matter what we say, that MP is not going to change their position, but I thought we could also write a letter to Honorable Diane LeBouthier and welcome her to her new position and let her know what's really going on. So I think we could get some help from those in the industry to write a good letter, but I think we should do it with due diligence and dispatch.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. So that was a motion.
Yes.
It's moved by Councillor Dorwood, seconded by Councillor Tidbury. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks. And I appreciate what Janet was saying. It's, I think it's presenting a certain point of view. And I think it is a point of view. I don't think it's supported by perhaps a lot of facts and science that's out there. I sent just a note out today about a tweet, video that Minister Cullen also put on Twitter or X today, talking about his meeting with the minister, the Fisheries and Ocean new minister, and about announcements coming out soon. And again, it was not supportive of the industry around here. I think I agree with the motion completely that we need to send a letter. We need to send a very clear letter, I believe. And I believe we need to send it with alacrity. I believe we need to send it very soon. And I also think that it would also, because the minister may have heard from various quarters, one set of circumstances. I think it's important that with the letter that we bring along support from other communities on the North Island, from Campbell River all the way north, and that it be a letter that's supported. And I know this takes time, but we have to do it, and we have to do it quickly, with as much support as we can from other communities and other groups on the North Island.
Thank you, Councillor Dorwood.
And particularly our First Nations.
Sorry, thank you, Jen. Yeah, I first and foremost with the First Nations. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that.
I know you meant it.
Thank you. Any other comments? So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thanks. Committee reports, draft minutes of the Bear Smart Committee meeting held September 12th for information. Any comments? Moving on, staff reports. Our CAO Nelson Smith, read the active transportation plan. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. So we have put in for this one previously. So last time we submitted 2 priorities to the Active Transportation BC grant, which were our top priorities for active transportation. We got one, which was the Granville Street Trustee Connector, which was it's been wildly successful. And then the second one, which we weren't successful in getting, was the connection for this particular intersection here. So we don't have any safe passage from that crosswalk all the way into the rec center and connecting to the Huddleston trails. So the recommendation from staff is to put that application again to the Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant, now that it is only one singular project. And then to utilize funds in the 2024 year from general surplus in order to offset the cost for the district. I put in estimated because I put an inflationary amount in there based on our last pricing. But I will have, McElhaney reprice that out again before we actually put in the application. If this is supported.
Thank you. Councillor Dorwood?
Did you add 100% inflation?
Close.
It's almost getting that way, especially with government projects, but yeah, I'm in favor of this.
I did just want to highlight, we actually came under budget on the last one. It's the first time in a long time we've come under budget, so.
Yeah.
With,
Well, I'll make this motion for the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tidbury. Any other comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carry. The bylaw number 1167-2023 District Port Hardy permissive tax exemption for years 2024 and 2025 for first, second, and third readings. Moved by Councillor Tidbury, seconded by Councillor Texmo. So everybody's aware that this is for the community garden lot. Yeah, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Pending bylaws, bylaw number 1164-2023, amendment to zoning bylaw number 1010-2013. And verbal reports, Councillor Tidbury.
As the rest of council knows, we were all last week, we had a busy week at the UBCM in Vancouver. Long hours, long walking, and lots and lots of meetings with the ministries. And we're hoping to see results from those meetings. And that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks. Just quickly, the Viral levy has been posted and is out, and it's reflective of inflation. So that will be part of our budget discussion. There's also some information coming out about finances within Vancouver Island Regional Library. And there was, I can't remember the date of a technical briefing on the finances and what's been going on lately. And I don't know if, I think everyone, I don't know if everyone received that, but certainly I think Heather received that, so I don't know whether they're planning on attending or not. I don't think it's critical. And also, just what John said, UBCM last week, a few of us brought back a few unwanted guests from it, but I also would draw people's attention when it's published to the report that Heather did up about the meetings and about UBCM, and it gives a pretty good snapshot, I believe was her words, of the week and who we met with and what we did. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jurgis.
This will be as brief as I'll ever be in my history as a councillor and a mayor. Thank you, Heather, for the snapshot. And that's all I have. It was a wonderful week, but not a great second week. But anyways, everybody have a great evening. Goodbye.
That was very brief. Councillor Texmo.
Oh, that was good. So I did went to the Terry Fox run. Thanks to Janet and everyone, all the supporters and all the sponsors and everyone for putting that together. That's such an important thing. It's always been a part of my life growing up in Port Hardy, right from Robert Scott days right till now. And now my boy was already there. So the next generation's coming through. And then I got to speak on behalf of council. And what I really tried to portray was just basically that, you know, it's such an important part of our community that was taught early on age here and it's always been supported. And just the fact of what that man did it's absolutely insane and super inspiring. And he is a Canadian treasure, and we do need to honor him like we do. And I'm happy to see how many people showed up, and seeing pictures from social media from all over Canada was just, it's heartwarming. So again, thanks to Janet and everybody. It was my first time I ran since the marathon, their half marathon, so it hurt a little bit, but but it was good. And I felt it was pretty well attended. So that was a good one. The next one was today. We went and had a little tour of the McDonald's, seeing how that's come together. It's one of the fastest builds I've seen ever. It's come along great. It's a huge building, a lot bigger than I expected in the inside. And I guess what was the target date for that was sometime in November. Yeah, sometime in November. So that's exciting. And then the next thing will be on the list is the Truth and Reconciliation Day this Saturday. I'm looking forward to being there and bring my camera and try and capture some powerful moments, because it's a pretty important day that we should all support. So that's it for me.
All right, I too attended UBCM. This is just a draft one, but awesome job, Heather. This summarizes the week very, very nicely. So thank you for that. The Terry Fox run, yeah, it was a success. There was 43 participants, 15 volunteers to help make it happen. And you did a really amazing job of speaking on behalf of the council. Like you're a natural, so thank you. Raised a little bit more money than last year, $2,770. I am going to shave my head for next year, and I'm going to divide it. Yeah, you heard it. You heard it here first.
Okay.
I'm going to divide it half between Cops for Cancer and Terry Fox. So start sending money.
I'll pay for that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, the lady in Port Ellis has short hair, and she raises 20,000. I was
She
hoping for
raised
10.
more than
Yeah,
20,000
she's
last year.
amazing. So, yeah, no, I'm letting it go after that. This is it, folks.
Yeah.
Got a year. Styling my hair every day. I also went to McDonald's today, got the tour. That was great. The owners were there, Jens and Mary, and they have 3 stores in Campbell River. Super nice people. And I was pleased that they talked about what community charities they could donate to when those type of activities came out. So sounds like they're going to be good supporters of our community. And I also went to Mid-Island Co-op's grand reopening. You know, they bought the former Esso station and they became the co-op there. And then they took about a year and did the big renovation and everything. So they had their official grand reopening today. And they too are huge community supporters. They're great for supporting projects. So that's it for me.
Thank you. So, I had a meeting with Councillor Robertson and the Aboriginal Coalition to End Homelessness with our CAO, Nelson Smith, to discuss the formation of a society in Port Hardy, looking at going forward with helping out the vulnerable population of Port Hardy. So that was really good. UBCM, so thank you to our CAO. Again, I'll reiterate, thank you for the amazing snapshot. But I just want to say that we all went there to advocate for our community needs concerning our health, ongoing ER closure, the highways, forestry, fish farms, vulnerable population, and on. And we were gone from our hotel room, most of us, from 7 in the morning until well after dinner. So we're all pretty exhausted. So far, only 2 have come down with anything, touch wood, none of the rest of us come down with anything. I attended on the weekend the Pride celebration and did the walk from Sacred Wolf Friendship Center up to the community hall. Lots of vendors there, and really a great celebration of diversity and inclusion. So it was really nice. On Sunday, I did the Tour de Rock, a welcome and greetings. And amazing celebration again. And they only had one person that was signed up to shave their head, which he did. That was the Applewood group manager. But then three other people came up and shaved their heads. One was Sharon Whitehead and a young lad who had raised $1,000. So it was really, really neat. But it would be nice to have more community participation, kind of like when I talked to the Whiteheads, happened many years ago when there was bail to get out of jail, and there was all these different fundraisers. And so hopefully next year there'll be more. The McDonald's sneak peek was really neat and really fun. And as well, I went to the grand opening at the co-op, and I got to do my very first ribbon cutting. That was pretty cool.
You get big scissors?
No, they didn't have big scissors, but they had little scissors, and but it was very nice, and they had so many people up helping out, so it was great. And yeah, McDonald's, the co-op, giving back to the community and wanting to help the community was really very special. And I just wanted to mention, you know, I am going to be going to the Truth and Reconciliation Walk. And then I'm quickly going to be leaving there to go down to Port McNeil for Dave Rushton's memorial. For those of you that don't know him, he was a WAS resident, but a longtime North Island community advocate. And he will be missed by the whole North Island. And I think that's about it for me. All right, no notice of in-camera meeting. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Texman. Any questions pertaining to the agenda? We've got lots of people online. We've got people in the audience.